Bull Bear Buzz Podcast for decoding markets, fueling minds.
Welcome. If you're trying to cut through the noise and really understand what's shaping India's economic engine, well, you're in the right place.
Yeah, especially when it comes to those core infrastructure industries.
Exactly. We've got this fresh government report, and, instead of you having to wade through it all, we're going to unpack the key insights right here.
And we're focusing specifically on the index of 8 core industries. That's coal, crude oil, natural gas, refinery products.
Fertilizers, steel, cement, and electricity.
Right. And these aren't just like random sectors. They make up, believe it or not, over 40% of the entire index of industrial production.
Wow, 40.27% I think is the exact number.
Yeah, something like that. So basically how they're doing gives us a really strong signal about the country's overall industrial health.
Think of it as checking the vital signs, maybe. Are these core areas strong?
Yeah, that usually means the wider industrial scene is probably doing okay too.
So today we're drilling down into how they performed in March 2025 compared to March 2024.
And we'll also look at the big picture, the whole fiscal year that just wrapped up, April 24 to March 25.
Okay. And just a quick heads up for everyone, these numbers we're discussing, they're provisional.
Right, so they can see some, minor tweaks down the line, but they give us a very good current picture.
Definitely. So let's dive straight into March 2025 versus March 2024. What's the headline number?
Okay, the headline is positive. The combined output of these 8 industries, it saw a 3.8% increase year on year for March.
3.8%. Okay, decent. Let's break that down. Where did that growth really come from?
Well, one area really jumped out, cement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, production was up an impressive 11.6%.
11.6. Wow. Okay, what could be driving that kind of, surge?
That kind of growth in cement, it often points pretty directly towards a strong uptick in construction.
Ah, right. Infrastructure projects, maybe. Housing.
Exactly. Could be government spending, private sector investment, maybe a boom in residential building, or, a mix of all three.
Makes sense. And that demand obviously helps jobs and related industries too.
For sure. Then there's fertilizers. Also a pretty substantial increase there, up 8.8%.
Okay, 8.8 for fertilizers. That sounds like good news for the agricultural sector, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Higher fertilizer production usually means folks are gearing up for a strong agricultural season.
Farmers stocking up, anticipating demand.
Precisely. Which is good for food security, rural incomes, all of that. Steel also showed healthy growth. That was 7.1%.
Steel, right. Another key one, often tied to manufacturing, infrastructure. What's that telling you?
Well, much like cement, strong steel numbers often reflect momentum there. Infrastructure development, manufacturing.
Cars, engineering, construction.
All those vital parts of the economy, yeah. That suggests activity is picking up. Then we had electricity generation, also solid growth, 6.2%.
And electricity is so fundamental, isn't it? Higher demand could mean, lots of things.
It's a broad indicator, definitely. Could be more industrial output, more commercial activity, even just higher household use. Signals economic activity generally.
Got it. Okay, what else was positive?
We also saw coal production increase, though more modestly. That was up 1.6%.
Okay.
And refinery products saw a slight rise, just 0.2%.
Barely moving, but still positive.
Exactly. So, overall, most of these core sectors were heading upwards in March.
But it wasn't all growth, was it? I think there were some dips.
No, that's right. We saw some declines, too. Natural gas production, actually, it saw a pretty significant decrease, down 12.7% compared to last March.
12.7%. That's quite a drop. Any thoughts on what might be behind that?
Well, a sharp fall like that, it could be a few things. Maybe lower demand from key industries that use gas.
Or supply issues.
Could be. Things like maintenance shutdowns at production sites, or maybe changes in imports if domestic output couldn't keep up.
Yes.
It's hard to say just from this number.
And crude oil.
Crude oil production also dipped. Yeah. A more moderate decrease, down 1.9% in March.
Right. So a bit of a mixed picture for March then, really. Strong growth in some key areas like cement, steel, suggesting construction and manufacturing are hemming along. But then these, concerning dips in crucial energy sectors like natural gas and crude.
That's a good summary of the month, yeah.
Okay, so let's take that step back now. Look at the whole fiscal year, April 2024 to March 2025. What was the overall story there?
Right, the cumulative picture. For the fiscal year as a whole, the provisional cumulative growth rate for this index came in at 4.4% compared to the previous fiscal year.
4.4% overall for the year, so still positive growth across the 12 months.
Yes, the overall trend for the year was definitely positive.
And looking at those cumulative figures, who were the leaders? Which sectors really drove that growth over the year?
Okay, so steel had a strong year cumulatively, growth of 6.7%.
Nice.
Cement was right behind it, also solid at 6.3% cumulative growth.
So those construction and infra indicators held up well over the whole year.
Seems like it. Both coal and electricity also put in commendable performances for the year, both up 5.1% cumulatively.
Okay, 5.1 each for coal and electricity. So those four seem to be the main engines for the year's growth.
Yeah, they were certainly key contributors to that overall 4.4% figure.
What about the others? How did fertilizers and refinery products fare over the full year?
Fertilizers recorded decent cumulative growth. That was 2.9% for the year.
Yep.
And refinery products saw a more moderate increase, 2.8% over the fiscal year.
So still positive momentum for both of them across the whole period, just maybe not as strong as steel or cement?
Exactly. A good number of sectors showing positive trends across the year.
Following the pattern from March, those energy sector declines, did they persist throughout the year too?
Yes, the cumulative data reflects those challenges we saw in the monthly figure. Both crude oil and natural gas ended the fiscal year with cumulative declines.
Okay, what were the numbers?
Crude oil was down 2.2% for the full year.
Right.
And natural gas saw a cumulative decrease of 1.2%. So yeah, those sectors definitely faced some headwinds throughout 2024-25.
It's really interesting to see that divergence, isn't it? You've got strength in areas tied to like physical building and industrial activity.
Steel, cement.
But then this consistent dip in primary energy sources like oil and gas makes you wonder about, the energy mix, demand patterns, maybe sourcing strategies.
It certainly raises some important questions about the energy landscape going forward. And just to add a little more context, remember the final growth rate for the index back in December 2024. That was revised up slightly to 5.1%.
Okay, so while March was 3.8%, December was a bit stronger at 5.1%. Shows those month-to-month fluctuations.
Exactly. The underlying trend has generally been positive, but it does vary. And it's also worth remembering two small points about the data itself.
Okay.
One is that the electricity generation figures have included renewable sources since way back in April 2014.
Right, so it captures that growing contribution from green energy.
Correct. And the other is a technical point about steel. A new product category, HRPO, was included under finished steel production data starting March 2019.
Okay, so that might have a subtle effect when looking at longer-term steel trends. Good to know.
Just minor points, but part of the picture.
And of course, it's crucial to remember the weights, right? Each of these 8 industries contributes differently to that overall 4.4% or 3.8% number.
Absolutely critical point. A big jump in a heavyweight sector like, say, refinery products has a much bigger impact on the overall index.
Then the same percentage change in a smaller weight sector, like maybe fertilizers?
Exactly. It's not just about the individual percentages in isolation. You have to consider their weighting within the whole index.
Right. So wrapping it up then, the big picture seems to be a core infrastructure sector that largely showed positive growth, both in the recent month, March, and across the whole fiscal year.
Yeah, that's fair. But with those important caveats around crude oil and natural gas, their consistent declines are definitely trends worth watching closely.
Agreed. So, reflecting on all this data, it does leave you with some big questions, doesn't it? Like, what are the fundamental drivers behind the strength in cement and steel? Government push, private investment picking up, and conversely, what are the deeper reasons for the slip in natural gas and crude output? Is it demand side, supply constraints, import dynamics?
All good questions.
And ultimately, I guess, what does this performance snapshot of our core infrastructure really tell us about the likely trajectory for the broader Indian economy in the coming months? Lots to think about there.
Indeed. It gives us a solid, data-driven foundation for those kinds of considerations. And for anyone keen to keep tracking the next release, the index figures for April 2025.
When's that due?
That's scheduled to be released on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. So we'll get the next piece of the puzzle fairly soon.